I'm a merry-go-round.
So I'm predicting that many of you are thinking one of three thoughts right now. 1, there was a VeggieTales video game? 2, wait, Maverick's alive? Or 3, but why though? I've made it no secret in the past that I'm a Christian, and having grown up in a Christian household, I watched a lot of VeggieTales in my childhood. I loved the characters, the stories, the songs, and the humor, and it taught me some very important life lessons. And while the newer stuff is, pretty bad, I'd honestly say a fair amount of the older stuff still holds up pretty well, and it's got some value to it even for non-religious people. The lessons it teaches are ones that can apply to anyone's life, with episodes covering topics like self-confidence, peer pressure, making the best out of bad situations, just to name a few, and even as a form of entertainment, I personally think it could still be pretty funny.
Plus, there's no decent food around here.
These woods are full of rabbits and squirrels.
Yeah, but they won't let me eat them. Children's film.
Oh.
Though that doesn't quite answer why I'm talking about it today now, does it? Well, this month marks the 25th anniversary of the series, and for such a special occasion, I wanted to celebrate. And what better way to do so than to do what I do best? Talk about video games. Many of the VeggieTales episodes base their settings and characters on already existing stories and franchises, like Star Trek and Indiana Jones. But easily their most popular of these parodies was their take on the superhero genre, known as LarryBoy. 2 of the earlier VeggieTales episodes focused on him and the city of Bumbleberg, those being LarryBoy and the Fifth from Outer Space and LarryBoy and the Rumorweed. And it seemed to have been quite a hit, given the merchandise that followed, including multiple LarryBoy-themed toys, a CD containing the soundtrack of both episodes, a 2D spin-off miniseries, and a series of books based on that miniseries. So when it was time to announce that a third LarryBoy episode, entitled LarryBoy and the Bad Apple, was in the making several years after the Rumorweed, they made it a big deal. Like, the initial trailer was played up like it was a theatrical film. And to go alongside the release of the episode, in summer 2006, they released a tie-in game for the PlayStation 2 and Game Boy Advance. We're going to be looking at specifically the PlayStation 2 game for this review. I mean, I could also look at the Game Boy Advance game, which I do own, but yeah, I don't really want to. I first played the PS2 version at my uncle's place at the time it came out because, well, I wasn't going to miss out on the opportunity of playing a LarryBoy video game. I didn't touch it ever again until 2012, in which I absolutely loved it after my playthrough, even going as far as putting it at number 1 on a licensed games list I did back then on this channel. Not my proudest time as a content creator, to put it simply. And now here I am playing it for the first time since then to see if that opinion still holds up, though I already have a feeling that won't be the case. Quick disclaimer before we start though, for the sake of recording footage, I did use an emulator, but rest assured I do actually own an official copy of the game. Only reason I bring this up is because you may notice that footage of the later levels does occasionally stutter in the frame rate department. It's not the game, the emulator was just struggling there. Now with all that said, let's finally get this review started. The game follows the exact same plot as the episode it's based on. The city of Bumbleberg is preparing for its 300th anniversary, but the celebration is being sabotaged by a villain known as the Bad Apple. She desires to take over the city, and to do so she plots on trapping key citizens by using their personal temptations against them in order to cripple the city and leave the citizens helpless to her control. It's a simple story, but works both in the context of the episode, as it helps in teaching the lesson of dealing with temptations, and in the context of the game, as the Bad Apple is able to use her spiderwebs and mysterious belt to create alternate realities based on her victim's personal temptations, which leaves the door open for some creative level themes. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with the opening tutorial. Now, going into this game, I had this gut feeling that something was going to be off about the controls, and having now played through the game again, I can confirm that the controls are okay overall. They're perfectly responsive, but the issue comes down to the movement speed. Given he's a cucumber and lacks legs, LarryBoy moves around by hopping, and he does this pretty slowly. I got used to it over time, and by the end of the game it didn't bug me at all, but initially, yeah, the slower movement was a bit patience testing. Jumping's also pretty floaty, but it functions fine. You still get the right amount of height needed in your jumps. Definitely easier to get used to than the slow movement. It's also during this tutorial that your butler Alfred introduces you to his newest gadget.
I call it the Super Metal Automatic Replacement Technology Cape, or Smart Cape for short.
That's certainly a name. The cape's main feature is allowing you to glide, which happens at a speed notably faster than regular movement, so it actually can serve as a way to get around quicker if you want. But the cape also allows you to turn yourself into a metal weight, complete with one of many cheesy puns upon usage.
Heavy duty. Alfred, if you think I'm overweight, I'll wait here.
Other abilities in LarryBoy's arsenal include a power drencher that allow you to grow plants and destroy spiderwebs, and a spin attack for destroying objects and taking out enemies. So after this tutorial, we get a few pretty high quality scenes straight from the original episode, showing the Bad Apple using LarryBoy's weakness for chocolate as a means to trap him. After these scenes, we're thrown to the first level of the game, a chocolate-themed wonderland, and here we're introduced to what the game overall is like. As to be expected with a PS2 licensed game based on a series made for kids, the game's a 3D platformer, but instead it's more so a puzzle platformer than that generation's usual action platformer, which I am totally fine with. I didn't want to have to deal with bare bones beat-em-up combat anyway. Though now that I mention it, how would that even work with LarryBoy? Would he just throw his body around at enemies or something? But yeah, the game puts much more of a focus on the platforming and puzzle solving. Combat is limited to just using your spin attack on enemies, or, in the case of these smoke ball enemies, leading them to nearby air vents. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of enemy variety present in this game. Aside from these standard guards and the smoke ball things, there's a turret variation of the guard introduced later, which take way too long to defeat by the way, and that's it. Granted, they are one step above Skylar and Plux's enemies, since they do actually get different costumes in each level, but not only is that not much in the grand scheme of things, doing something better than Skylar and Plux also isn't much of a hurdle to begin with.
We came in like a wrecking ball.
Case in point. Though as for the level itself, it's okay. It's fairly linear, with very few opportunities to do any exploring or go off the beaten path, and the few times it does is just to get to an area with a music sheet. Oh yeah, this game is also partly a collect-a-thon, with each level having 200 music notes to find, alongside a total of 18 music sheets throughout the entire game. Though that said, the music notes and music sheets only unlock concept art, cutscenes, and music to be viewed and listened to in the gallery on the main menu. So unless you're a completionist, there's really no reason to go after the music notes and music sheets. And even then, I tried going for all the music notes in every level, and ended up finishing some levels with literally 2 or 3 music notes missing. This is just forever my curse, isn't it? Also, I get that I'm not the target audience for this game, it's clearly meant for young children, but my goodness, this game holds your hand a lot. It doesn't matter how many times you've used your abilities, the game will frequently remind you to use certain abilities at certain points, even if it seems pretty obvious.
Master Larry, this would be the perfect time to transform yourself into a heavy weight. The platform against the wall looks as if it could be lowered with some extra weight.
Again, I get it, it's a game for kids, but you gotta have a little faith in them. They're smarter than you may think.
We may be close to finding an exit, but more guards are in place, and I don't see an air vent nearby.
See, that's a bit better, hinting at what the player needs to do to solve the puzzle without straight up telling them what they need to do. Anyway, shortly after this, we reach our first boss fight. Alright, let's see how this goes.
8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh dear. Again, I get it. This is a game for kids. Like, clearly little kids. But surely you could have come up with a more engaging boss fight. The only challenge I can see here, aside from if you maybe mess up a jump, is that the player doesn't know how to count up to 9. Which if you don't know how to count up to 9, you probably shouldn't be playing video games yet. So following that boss fight, Alfred gives you a new capability, allowing you to electrify yourself. Which is really just another way of flipping switches. Admittedly, it's kind of a shame that both the weight and electrifying abilities are used for basically the same purpose. I kind of wish that they were used for other puzzles than just flipping switches. Though it's after this that we're told to go into the city, and so LarryBoy does. After showing a complete lack of sound balancing. Ow, my ears hurt. So the city of Bumbleberg actually serves as a hub world of sorts. Here you can access all the various levels as you unlock them, but you can also partake in a hide and seek challenge with a bunch of kids, who all seem to be hiding in back alleys. Either muggers don't exist in Bumbleberg, or these kids are hardcore with their hide and seek. I never found all the kids, but I'm assuming you just get a music sheet for finding them all, so probably not worth it. The hub also contains glide challenges, which require you to glide and platform your way from one glowy point to another without touching the ground. While the rewards are, once again, just music sheets, I actually found myself enjoying these challenges. They're a nice test of your abilities and quick thinking as you figure out how to get to the next glowy point. Though you can't access these glide challenges until you have later abilities unlocked, so for now we're going to move on to the next level. The Bad Apple's next target is the city's leader, Mayor Blueberry, whose weakness is her vanity. Her level takes place in a large mansion, which in the original episode was filled with dresses, in case you're wondering what that has to do with vanity. The level does provide some branching paths at the start and some more open areas, but it's all in all still pretty linear. I do like this library puzzle though, where you have to find the books to pull to open the next area. Plus, Alfred doesn't straight up tell you what to do either. More of this, please! Also, LarryBoy has the power to levitate. Who knew? Now I want to take this moment to talk about the music in this game because there's a bit of an interesting situation here. The game does not have any original music. The soundtrack consists entirely of already existing VeggieTales songs, whether it be the score from a previous episode, like with the chocolate level, instrumentals of original VeggieTales songs, like with the Larry Cave, or in cases like this level, instrumentals of song covers from the VeggieTales CDs.
Ezekiel saw the wheel way in the middle of the air.
I guess Big Idea does own the instrumentals to the covers, so they can use them however they wish, but I don't know, this is kind of a weird choice. Though, fittingly enough, the boss theme throughout the game is an instrumental of the Bad Apples song from the original episode. Speaking of which, let's talk about this level's boss. While still not great, it is a step up from the previous one. Here, the Bad Apple's using mirrors to heat up the platforms, and you need to spray the mirrors once they've overheated to break them. Granted, Alfred spells that out way too clearly, but I imagine for some kids this fight could be on the tricky side with the heated up platforms and all. Again, definitely a step up from whatever the first boss was. After this, you return to the Larry Cave, though the LarryMobile definitely went through that pedestrian on its way off, to unlock the ability to use your plunger ears, which can be used to either pull yourself up to these floating things or to, what else? Hit switches. After this, you're immediately told to go back to Bumbleberg, destroying your ears again in the process, and go save the city's #1 reporter, Petunia Rhubarb, whose love for video games is being used against her. Aesthetically, Petunia's level is by far the most interesting in the game, as it seems to take place inside some sort of gaming device, what with all the digital code on the walls. It's also a big step from the past levels design-wise too. It's got a sense of non-linearity, as you're given 3 sections to go to in any order you want to solve some puzzles and activate generators, and even a set of side-scrolling platforming rooms. It's certainly got a lot more variety, that's for sure. This is also where the game starts to loosen up on the hand-holding a bit, which I do appreciate. Though I could have done without this room full of turret guards. These things require so much waiting to beat, and there's so many of them here.
These next-gen games are outstanding, are they not? Gorgeous graphics, state-of-the-art technology, all of which only a talented gamer like yourself could appreciate.
Now, which AAA publisher do I edit over the Bad Apple's face for this joke? Actually, on that note, I do want to take this opportunity to talk about the game's graphics. Like I said earlier, the episode clips they use are pretty high quality, but the in-game graphics themselves look okay. The game definitely benefits from its levels taking place in worlds outside of regular reality because a lot can be done and is done to make them aesthetically interesting. Though on the flip side, areas like Bumbleberg and the Larry Cave are, by comparison, a lot blander to look at. The character models all look relatively simplistic too, but given its VeggieTales characters, I guess it makes sense. They're pretty simple designs, and I don't think I want to see hyper-realistic detail on a cucumber wearing spandex. That is an actual sentence I just said in a YouTube video. I think I'm good to retire now. Now, as for this level's boss fight, it's unfortunately a step back from the previous one. All you do is hit the targets on the main platform with your plunger ear, pull yourself up after hitting them all, and then repeat the process over and over until Petunia's cage is destroyed. There are enemies to defeat in the process, but they're just regular guards, barely a threat at this point of the game. Kind of disappointing all in all, considering how well the rest of the level went. After this, it's the same as before. You return to the Larry Cave, though the LarryMobile seems to lose its driver on the way there, and you unlock a new ability that, once again, is used to hit switches.
I've developed a way for you to fly across large gaps that are too far to double jump and glide over.
It's an ability that's not switch related? Is that even possible? Woo!
He needs my help. I'll be there before you can say Methuselah.
Methuselah.
I'll be there before I can say Methuselah.
But Master Larry, you just said it.
And I should already be there.
Okay, I don't know if I just have a bad sense of humor, but that exchange was kind of funny. But anyway, after this, you return to Bumbleberg, but this time we're greeted by an in-game cutscene as opposed to an FMV. See, the Bad Apple only targeted LarryBoy, Mayor Blueberry, and Petunia in the original episode, but the game adds 2 more levels for the sake of extending the game length. The first of the Bad Apple's game-exclusive victims is Fire Marshal Paw Grape, who has a fascination for collecting toys. His level is actually quite solid design-wise. The first half takes place in a giant toy castle, having you search for hydro stations to fill up in order to power the rocket in the center. Once again, providing some non-linearity, and even giving you a puzzle that requires creative use of your weight ability. I can't believe it! They have you using the weight ability for something that's not flipping a switch! Though the visuals of the area are less interesting than the previous level, and especially around the rocket, the game started to have some notable frame rate drops. Though like I said earlier, that's because it's an emulator. The castle part does start to get a bit boring by the end of it, but it's then immediately followed by this humongous volcanic valley area that's completely open. You know, this game may have started off kinda rough, but it actually has been getting better as it goes on. Dare I say it, it's actually not too bad. And now for the obligatory, reviewer says this game's actually not too bad, and then immediately cuts to something really bad in the game. Joe, why does this part not work? All you gotta do is guide the smoke ball enemy into the toy dragon's nose, but for some reason it just didn't want to. Wasn't helping that the camera, which has been generally competent for the rest of the game prior, decides to be super stubborn at this exact moment. It took me 3 minutes to get rid of this thing when it really should have only taken a few seconds.
You handled the gods like a true superhero.
Nah, they're just too nosy.
You stop that. And then this ordeal is followed up by the worst boss in the game. All you do is pull this lever, wait for the drawbridge to slowly move to the next platform, fill up the water tank, and then wait for the train to come by to pour the water tank over the train's coals. Do this 3 times and you win. It's just such a long and boring fight, and even the bad apple air bombing you while you wait for the drawbridge to move is barely a threat. To give you an idea, the fight lasted 5 minutes, and most of that time was me just standing there and waiting. Shame too, the level was going so well. Surprisingly, once you finish this level, you're not told to return to the Larry Cave, but instead you're immediately taken into the next temptation cutscene, this time of the baker Mr. Lunt, who is addicted to sci-fi movies.
Yes, he's your father, Galactic Commando. The entire universe knows that he's your father. Get over it.
Have I mentioned I love the writing in VeggieTales? Admittedly, I did find it weird that they decided to go with a sci-fi level, given we already had a pretty technological level earlier, but it is visually distinct enough. Also, for a final level, this is actually pretty good. It's got some tricky platforming sections, some creative puzzles, and this maze section that requires use of pretty much all your abilities. It's definitely not best final levels ever material, but for a game for young children, this is a solid final challenge. Heck, even the boss fight's not too bad. It has you spraying moving targets in order to block the lasers generating the force field around the bad apple and Baker Lunt. All the while, you gotta keep eye when the bad apple goes to activate her insta-kill lasers. Not an amazing boss fight, but I can see this being a genuinely good challenge for the target audience. And after all this, you get another FMV showing the bad apple finally enacting her plan of creating a fun house to resisting for citizens, which wouldn't work as well here since all the people that would be able to stop her aren't still trapped like in the original episode, but details. And this leads us to the final boss fight against the bad apple in the hub area. Unfortunately, the final boss isn't all too great. All you do is spray the webs holding the fun house down, which will snap back and stun the bad apple, and you gotta platform towards her and spray her. Do this 6 times and you win. You're bound to be fine with platforming at this point of the game, and the only real obstacle beyond that are a few guards and smoke balls. Definitely not the worst fight in the game, but the boss before was better. So yeah, the game kinda ends on a low note. Once that's done, you get a few more cutscenes to wrap up the game, watch the end credits, and then you're brought back into the hub. You are able to go back to any of the levels in the game, but there's really no incentive to. Actually, there's really no incentive to replay a level at all. You're able to find everything in a level on your first go. It's not like there's items hidden away that require later abilities to get to, and unless you want to unlock all the extra stuff or just be a completionist, well then, yeah, you're good once the end credits roll. So I'll be honest, going into this review, I was expecting the game to actually be bad, and that my liking for it before was just me being super biased due to it being a VeggieTales game. But having now played through it again, and while it's definitely rough at many points, it's honestly pretty alright overall. Definitely not a must-have or anything, or even something to keep an eye out for, but for a 3D platformer based on VeggieTales of all things, this turned out better than I was expecting to, and really it turned out better than it had any right to be. It's definitely more suited for kids who are newer to 3D platformers. A seasoned veteran will get a lot more out of the bigger titles of the genre, but when it comes to PS2 shovelware based on licensed products, especially for kids, there's a lot worse you could be playing. But then again, there are still better games you could be playing, but all in all, this actually is not a bad option. But anyway, this review has gone on longer than it probably would have if it was being done by anyone else, so I best end this now before I keep rambling. This has been Black Mage Maverick, and until the next video, have a nice day everybody, and happy 25th birthday, VeggieTales!